Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to one of my monthly vlogs. Monthly vlog for the month of January 2024 here on West Country Wanderings. What are all these monthly vlogs about then if you're new around here and you subscribe to the channel? What on earth is this behind me, and also where are we? Well, first of all, this is Roman. This is a Roman dike. It's a peat dike. It's constructed out of peat soil, scraped off the soil, and it was put here when this location where I currently am was a Roman town. It's no longer a Roman town. In fact, it's a Roman village, or it then became a village. It's now less of importance now than it once was in Roman days. We're here in the beautiful village of Dorchester. No, not the one in Dorset, but the one in Oxfordshire. No, you've probably never heard of it. I hadn't until very recently when I was just doing one of my scurrying around the map sort of thing. Where can I do my monthly vlog? Dorchester on Thames lies a couple of miles away from the town of Wallingford. Lots of other things to tell you here on the monthly vlog today on West Country Wanderings, so I hope you can join me. I'm currently about half a mile south of the village. The village just lies over there, and it has an impressive abbey, and we'll have a look at that later in this monthly vlog today. What else is this village famous for? Well, it was evidence of Saxon buildings here. In fact, it looks like that the abbey, current abbey, was built in Saxon days and rebuilt again in Norman times until its present structure that we have here in the village today. The village is also lies where the confluence of where the River Tame joins the River Thames. So the River Thames is just over there, and we'll be walking in that direction shortly as I tell you more about what's been happening on the channel West Country Wanderings here today in Oxfordshire. The River Tame rises well out of my area in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, about 40 miles to the northeast, and it flows in a southwest direction out of Aylesbury towards here, where it joins the River Thames. We'll be looking at that. It's about 40 miles or so long. Now, as you can see, the dikes here are made up of two large banks with a ditch in the middle. There's also some evidence to suggest they were actually originally constructed in Iron Age times and were adapted for the Romans' use. Why did the Romans settle in this area? Why was it a Roman town? Well, it's believed to have thought because it was a fording point across the River Thames, obviously a main river in the southern part of England. So I'm in the extreme eastern section of the West Country Wanderings region today, but because there seemed to be a lot of interest in Lechlade-on-Thames, not a million miles away from where I am today, when I was doing one of my Thames and Severn secrets canal videos, I thought I'd just move a little bit further along the Thames here and see what's here. And as I say, we've got lots of Roman connections, a bit more to tell you as we go on later in today's video. Towards the end of last year, I started a new series here on West Country Wanderings called Secrets of the Stroud Water. It's proved to be really popular. And the fourth video in that series landed looking at the double lock at Ryford, just outside the town of Stroud, in the southern part of the Cotswolds, on the Cotswold canals, of course. And we had a look in that video at the history and how that lock came to be constructed, and also the mechanism of it and the financial problems that they had when it started to leak. I had a great comment on that from Lee. Thanks very much for your comment, Lee. Lee writes, very interesting. Funny, the first thing you think of when you visit the double lock is that it really is in the middle of nowhere. Yes, hence why that location there is literally called nowhere, and it's the only lock on the Stroud Water without a road connection, hence why they had to build a cottage for the lock keeper there too. I was amazed when I stumbled upon it because I didn't expect anything there. It's a beautiful lock, and I did wonder why it had 3 gates. Now I know. Thanks very much for that lovely comment there, Lee, and it is wonderful to see it completely restored now. I remember seeing it in the late 70s and through the 80s and 90s in a very dilapidated state, and as we came into this new century, 21st century, it was restored. I think it was around about 2010 to 2012 with those new lock gates on it. How did this lovely village of Dorchester on Thames come to get its name? Well, it has no link to Dorchester in further south, of course, in Dorset, which is the county town of Dorset, and it's a place I do hope to visit, hopefully later this year here on West Country Wanderings. But this one, the first part, is made up of two words, Dor and Chester. Now, Dor is probably a Celtic derivative meaning water. Now, the village of Dorchester on Thames is actually surrounded on three sides by water. Why three sides? Well, because the Thames does like an L shape underneath the village. And coming down from the north is the River Thames. So you have Thames, Thames, Tame. And the fourth bit is where the main road between Oxford and Reading goes. But yeah, so that's where that comes from. And the second part is, well, you're probably already well ahead of me on this one, the Chester bit. It's actually an Old English word which simply means Roman fort. Obviously the fortifications that were once around here, around this former previous Roman town. It was actually called, I'm not sure the pronunciation of this, Doric, but I'll put the spelling of that word below. It may be pronounced something completely different, but that's what the Romans called it. And as I say, it's now a village, not a town, but still a rather delightful one. On the railway series here on West Country Wanderings, I have, well, different strands. I've done a couple of new stations that have opened up. I think one was at Portway, wasn't it, in Bristol, just outside Bristol, and Marsh Button, just outside Exeter. And I think there'll be a couple of others coming on, maybe later this year. Hope to cover those. I also do like the heritage lines, and I also do my lost railway walks. More about one of those later. But sometimes I just like to have a scramble about. Not really a lost railway walk as such, it's not a proper linear walk, but trying to find evidence of former railway lines. And the next video was one of those. And it was called Looking for Swindon's Other Railway. And that other railway was the Midland and South Western Junction Railway, which headed down south out of the Gloucestershire town, Spa town indeed, of Cheltenham Spa, down towards, well, it was planned to go to Southampton, but it then ran over other metals. Was it the London South Western Junction Railway from Andover to Southampton? And I was looking for what evidence remained of it in the Wiltshire town of Swindon. It was probably the most frustrating video to make of all the videos that I've made this month, January 2024. Simply because I didn't realise that Thames Water, major water provider in that part of Wiltshire, of course, were going to be doing lots and lots of work, and they closed off this main cycle route, which was the former trackbed at the MSWJR, which meant I had to go on huge diversions and just get glimpses of where the railway once was. So it was a really difficult video to make, but some of you liked it. It was what it was. It's just the way these things turn out. You never know what's going to happen when you're filming, of course. But I did have a great comment on that video from Donna. Donna runs a channel called Donna's Adventures. I mentioned Donna before. Put a link to her channel in the description of today's. Great comment from Donna. Donna writes, "It's fascinating how landscapes change over decades, but there's usually still traces of old railways." Yeah, certainly very true. "I love your attention to detail and ensuring facts are right." Oh, that little pathway. Yes, indeed, that pathway. Thank you very much for a great comment there, Donna. And yes, there is often evidence of railways. You can usually make them out in the landscape, particularly if there's been a cutting or an embankment. I mean, these are, as I say, going back to 3000 BC. So yeah, a long time ago. The railway, though, because Swindon is a new town, there's been lots of building work going on there, so it is difficult to trace it in places. But that pathway, I think originally there was a little bridge over, was it the River Ray, I think? And for whatever reason, maybe it's washed away, it's no longer there. There's a very big fence across. And the footpath now goes across a parapet of a bridge, but it was a bit dicey. I didn't really enjoy it. Well, it was a very muddy walk anyway, but yeah. Anyway, great comment, Daniel. Thanks very much. Cheers. So this is Day's Lock with its weir here on the River Thames. There's also a footbridge behind me with a house next to it, and it looks like it's got one of those Thames Conservancy's plaques on the top of it, and I think probably that's because it was originally built for the lockkeeper here, which is great to see. Maybe it still is, because the lock is still in use. It just says it's self-service in there, but they are carrying out some repairs on the lock here at the moment. But delightful spot here, even though it's a rather cold end of January grey day. Just crossed over that footbridge over the River Thames and come to the little hamlet of Little Whittingham, of which I know nothing because I hadn't planned to come this bit. I'm really struck by the celandines and the snowdrops that are just bursting with colour surrounding this wonderful little peaceful hamlet here in the southern part of Oxfordshire. Really is stunningly beautiful. So now I come around the side of Little Whittingham Church. Beautiful, but unfortunately I don't have time to go inside. There is a court next to it. If I can find any history about this particular location online, I'll put it scrolling across to the screen right now. Lovely, peaceful and quiet location. Just here, the Weir River Thames in the background. Other than that, birdsong. Delightful. Now, from time to time, as you know, I like to do my short bite series. And one of those short bite series is my photography shorts. And I happened to be staying in Herefordshire for a few days. It was around my birthday in the month. I'm not going to say when it is. And so I was staying with a relative in there. And so I was near the town of Ross-on-Wye in Herefordshire. So I thought I'd go around that town with the camera. The town is beautiful. At the top, you've got what's called the Prospect. One John Kyrle built that. Wonderful view right over the River Wye, the floodplain. It was still in flood. Took lots of shots there, and that wonderful ancient bridge which goes over towards the castle at Wilton. Had a great comment on that video from Sean. Hi Sean. There's always a lot of conflicting information regarding the River Wye. Some say it's 150 miles long, others only 134 miles. A discrepancy of 20 miles. Yes, you're absolutely right, Sean. I've gone onto the internet, and if you just put in River Wye length, you can try this yourselves. You'll come up with lots of different websites, each giving you random figures which are about 25 miles apart. I've no idea why there should be such a discrepancy. What I decided to do was to go onto my OS map app and create a route from the source of the River Wye, and there's no conflict about where that source is because it's within a mile of where the River Severn rises. I think we've heard of that river, haven't we, before? On Mount Plinmimon. So it rises on the same mountain as the River Severn, making its way also to join the River Severn into the Bristol Channel, of course, joins the River Severn around the town of Chepstow. Well, I measured it to be 150 miles, so the other ones are a little bit short. Now I'm slowly heading back to the centre of Dorchester on Thames, following the River Thames, of course. Shortly up there, it'll be joining up with the River Thames. Now, because of Oxford Dons, Oxford's a city just a few miles to the north of where we are today here in Oxfordshire, they have named this section of the Thames between here, or rather where it joins the River Thames shortly, and Oxford, not the Thames, but the Isis, the River Isis, sometimes pronounced Isis, I'm never too sure. And sometimes on maps you'll see the river marked not just as plain River Thames, but sometimes marked as Thames or Isis. There is actually a walk called the Wysis Way, which links up the Welsh town of Monmouth on the River Wye to a place in Gloucestershire which sits on the River Thames, and that is the village of Kemble, which is near where the source this river lies. Yes, the wisest way. Maybe we'll cover some of that, or maybe possibly all of it, on a future adventure here on West Country Wanderings. Who knows? After my short New Year break in Herefordshire, I decided to head up to the town of Kidderminster in Worcestershire, which lies near the River Severn, of course, and it's there that the Severn Valley makes its way north, following the River Severn for much of its length. It's a beautiful heritage line. I was there for a Christmas special in the village of Arley, which also isn't that far away from Kidderminster, and they had an unusual gala on, steam gala, at the beginning of the year. That doesn't normally happen. You normally have the Santa specials around Christmas, and then usually that's it until Easter. Maybe something happens in half term. So I was really excited when I learnt about this. So I went up there. I went to Kidderminster, and the first viewpoint I went to was a place called Falling Sands Bridge, where there is the Stavsonwye Canal, and there happened to be a strategically placed narrowboat right on the canal, underneath the viaduct, with steam trains going over it. I couldn't believe my luck. So that video went down really well. I had a great comment on that video from Diana Rolfe. I particularly liked the shots of the steam trains going over the viaduct. Yeah, I was just so lucky with that narrowboat there. Also like the panoramic views over the Wye Forest. Wye Forest is an area we'll hope to explore later here on West Country Wanderings. I'm sure the shot of the approaching train you got covered in soot for your art. Yes, I think it was, the name escapes me. I think it was its last day of running. Something to do with pigs. I'll put it in below. I can never remember it and the number of it. I think it was its last day of operation. It's not healthy at the moment. As you see in the video, it's belching smoke out left, right and centre, and it was making its approach towards Bewdley Tunnel. But thankfully, I didn't get covered in any soot, Diana. Thanks for your comment too, though. Cheers. This is just an orientating shot, really. Our dike's where we started the video, just there, and just behind that is Dorchester Abbey. Just give you another couple of facts about Dorchester Abbey. It predates Roman times, and as I said, they thought that the dikes there could have been Bronze Age, but they found lots of evidence of carbon dating going back to the village starting maybe around 8,000 years ago. And that was in the site of the village where the gravel pits are now, close to the main bypass road. Sadly, a lot of that was dug up when they did the gravel pits, so there's not a great deal there to see these days, but it's still an important part of the wonderful village of Dorchester here in Oxfordshire history. Now we come to an important historical location here, Dorchester-on-Thames. That there is the River Thames, and it's just there, just behind me, where the Thames joins the River Thames. I nearly said Severn then, so I'm used to doing the Severn way. And there was a king, a Saxon king, who was the King of Wessex in 611 AD, called King Syneglis. Yes, it's a bit difficult to pronounce, I'll put it in below. And he got converted here in Dorchester, because Dorchester was an important place for Christianity. And he may have been baptised either in the Thames or the Thames by Saint Berenius. Now, Saint Berenius, when you walk off the bus from Wallingford like I did, you'll pass the school there, the primary school, and it's actually called Berenius School. And it's because of the association with that. He's actually buried in the Abbey. If I can find that point, I'll show it to you later on in the video. But so this is a really important place here. St. Berenius, actually, he came from Italy, I believe. He was commissioned, if you like, by the then Pope, whose name I've just forgotten, just gone out of my head, to come across to England specifically to convert the Saxons to Christianity. So this makes this place a very special place indeed. Now, King Syneglis was very impressed with St. Berenius that he allowed him to build a cathedral right here in Dorchester-on-Thames. That cathedral is no longer in existence, but it's at the site of where the current Dorchester Abbey is. During January, I had a trip to Bath, and while I was there, I decided to make two videos. One of the locations that always has struck me over the years visiting wonderful city of Bath, in Bath and North East Somerset, was actually just in the ceremonial county of Somerset, but it's now in Bath and North East Somerset, was the Circus, an incredible place in terms of architecture, with that triple layered wedding cake effect, and you've also got the shape of the quay if you combine it with Gay Street and Queen's Square. And I had a look around there, took some photographs on that. I told you a little bit about how that circus came to be. I had a terrific comment on that video, and I'd like to thank Malcolm Richardson. Hi Malcolm, it was great to hear from you. This nicely illustrates Wood's ingenious method of largely different, or layering shall I say, different architectural styles to create an aesthetically beautiful experience. An art which seems absent in much of today's contemporary architecture. Totally agree, Malcolm, yes. Some of those designs that we have these days, which apparently win awards, which seems to be a bit of a back-slapping exercise as far as I can see, but members of the wider general public don't agree that those designs are great, but it still remains outstanding. And like I said in the video, it's John Wood, both senior and junior, who went on to complete the work of the circus. It really turned around Bath's fortunes. So I've now come around the amazing Dorchester Abbey. As I say, there was originally a Saxon cathedral here, then there was a later Norman church, and you have the present one, which was built around the 13th and 14th centuries. And of course this was the seat of the Bishop of Dorchester. Again, not the one in Dorset, obviously. As befitting a former Roman town, as you can imagine, there have been lots of finds of Roman things in and around here. One of those was a Romano-British cemetery, and that was just to the north of the present-day village. Hundreds of Roman skeletons were found there. I think the most incredible find, though, was in 1731. In the area surrounding the village, a Roman altar was found with inscriptions on it dedicated to the Roman god Jupiter. Incredible. Now, the Forest of Dean in the western part of Gloucestershire always seems to be a really popular place, and it was to there that I did a Lost Railway walk. It was actually a 2 tunnels one. I was returning to the very first Lost Railway Walk series when I was walking along by the River Wye towards the town of Monmouth, just outside of my area, in the country of Wales, from the direction of Ross-on-Wye. So I thought I'd return to that to have a look at another section of it, and to a place I'd been to, or hadn't been to should I say, when I used to go around youth hosteling in the 1970s, cycling around the Cotswolds and Gloucestershire and places further afield on my bike. Sorry, there's a building works going on the other side of the River Thames here. And that video went down really well. I had lots of great comments on it, so thank you much for if you commented on that. I can't read them all out, there's too many. One from Marilyn Balderstock. Thank you very much, Marilyn, for your great comment. I just read a section of it, and it says, I followed it on side-by-side maps. Yes, you can do that. So if you go on to the National Library of Scotland's website, you can actually do side-by-side comparisons of the present-day OS map and the original map dated to, well, whenever the railway was in existence, and then you can see what it looks like on the ground now and what it looked like then. Sometimes I try to include those older OS maps in those sort of videos. I also had another comment from Paul Whitewick, who a lot of you probably already know, probably watch his channel on YouTube, so it's great to get a comment from Paul. And he wrote, happy memories from exploring this area, because he made quite a few videos in that area about 4 or 5 years ago, and managed to stick my camera in through the grill of one of the tunnels there and got a decent shot of the inside of it. But it has certainly seen better days. Yes, thanks very much, Paul, for your comment on that. And yeah, you can see cracks above the portal there. It's sadly declining. And another comment from James Weeks. Hi James, great to hear from you. I remember visiting Simmons Yat with some students from the school I was teaching at 20 years ago. There was a tiny bit of snow and everyone was excited to see the snow, which to my Canadian mind was a bit confusing. Thanks for that, James. It was great to see the frost on the ground, and it was crunching as I was walking around as well. I then did the second video that I shot in Bath, my one visit to do, again, which was a short bite series in my photography short bite series. And this was one completely different really, because it was looking at grainy black and white shots, street photography around the city of Bath. Bath's a fantastic place for street photography, and I took loads of grainy black and white shots there. It started off at the Bath Green Park Station, the old Somerset and Dorset terminus there in Bath. And I had a great comment on that from Pinned On Places, who also run a YouTube channel. Put a link to their video, channel should I say, in the description of today's video. Lovely to see Bath through your lens. Through a prime lens, it looks awesome, and I love the details it picks up in black and white on the architecture and old railway station. It gives it a raw and atmospheric detail. Thank you very much for that. That's brilliant. That video, when I first put it out, I thought, well, it'll probably won't do very well because it's something I wanted to do creatively, to enjoy doing, and it now has overtaken the Bath architecture one, which has really surprised me. I think it's now well over 400 views, which for photography short bite one is actually very good, considering it only went up about less than 2 weeks ago. So if you watched it, thanks very much. Now around the side of the Abbey you have this beautiful memorial garden, which actually is known as an Anglo-American garden. I'm not sure why it's Anglo-American. I'm hedging my bets that it's something to do with the nearby RAF Benson. Don't think that's an operational airfield anymore, but it used to be RAF, and during the Second World War American troops were based there, dotted around the benches. There are various different military American figures that those benches have been dedicated to, so I think that's the reason for it. But it's a lovely peaceful haven just beside the Abbey here in Dorchester. During January I did manage to get a trip down to Cornwall. Made 3 videos there, 2 of them have been published. The first one was a winter look around Looe. Looe lies in southeast Cornwall on the Looe River and also on the South Cornwall coast too. Very popular place, well known amongst my subscribers, that's for sure. I had a great comment on that video, and that was from Lionel and Mary Travels, and they have their own YouTube channel. Nice little stroll around Looe. Good to see the place without thousands of tourists milling about. Certainly was. It certainly gets a lot more crowded than that in the summer months for sure. I was surprised to see buses as it was a Sunday. I can't remember why they shortened the railway line. No, me neither. It's truncated now. It was where the GP surgery and the Texaco garages, if you know where that is in Looe, originally, and then it continued on down to the harbour side. Because I can remember it going down much further down towards the town. Oh, well done for that memory there, Lionel, and having to see it, or remembering what it looked like before the truncation. But yeah, lovely town, Looe, and I'm sure there'll be some more explores around southeast Cornwall soon coming up. The next one was a brand new series, and that was Secrets of the Thames and Severn Canal, following on from my recent Secrets of the Stroud Water, of which that hasn't finished. There'll be some coming up of that, including a new one in February as well. The first episode of the Secrets of the Thames and Severn Canal, should I say, started off in Lechlade-on-Thames, another place on the Thames, and that seemed to go really well. That was the most popular video on my channel for this month of January. Went down really well, and had some really great comments, and too many to read out, but one from a gentleman called Frank Hobbs. Hi Frank, and thank you very much for your comment. I haven't seen Old Father Thames since I was a boy, when in the late 1950s and early 1960s I used to stay with an aunt who lived at Coates, and we used to walk the fields to where he was originally situated, and we spent many a summer day enjoying ourselves. I'm sure it was sunnier then, indeed so. Thank you very much, that's a great comment. Yeah, and 1974, Old Father Thames, the statue of which was created for the great exhibition actually at Crystal Palace in 1863, somewhere around that, wasn't it? It was originally at the source of the River Thames, which I mentioned previously, just outside Kenmore, Coates, that area there, and it sadly got vandalised a few times. Reasons I have no idea. So it got moved to St John's Lock in Lechlade, where there is a permanent lock keeper. So they thought there'd be more people around there, and you got lights to the lock and somebody's house right outside it. So it's been a lot more protected there. That's the first time actually I'd ever seen the statue. So it's really good to see that. And thanks for your comment, Frank. Just before I tell you about the last two videos that landed on my channel this month, amazing fact I learnt about the Abbey here, contemporary one in fact, is that it was used for recording of a rock album called Kid A by the group Radiohead, who I think originate from the city of Oxford, so not far away. And they had a full orchestra on that album, on some of the tracks of the album, and the orchestral bits were actually recorded inside the Abbey here. That's amazing. So it must have a really, really good acoustic there. So this is where Radiohead's Kid A was made here in Dorchester. Incredible. The next video was one in my Cornwall series, one of the other ones that I filmed when I was down on a recent trip to Cornwall, and that was at Calstock. I caught the train from Liskeard back into Devon, and this is where the branch line, now branch line, used to be main line, started in Plymouth, heading up to Gunners Lake. We got off at the beautiful village of Calstock, which has much history of its own, not just mining history, but also some railway history, which I'll touch on in the next video as well. As I say, that should land in the next couple of days, probably just shortly after this vlog lands. I had some really great comments on that. Thank you if you watched that video. Particularly, people seemed to like the opening and said, had I bought a drone? Well, what I'd actually done was put the camera on a tripod on a table inside the railway carriage, and thankfully the windows were pretty clean. I angled it so you weren't getting glare, and then I slowed it down and enhanced the contrast and all that sort of thing you don't want to know about. But it wasn't a drone, it was literally taken through the window of the railway carriage as we crossed over that magnificent viaduct. David Bellani, David from Spain. Hi David, always great to hear from you. Thanks for your comment. In the first clip, yes, I thought you had a drone. Interesting to see the Tamar Bell Centre. I didn't know anything about it, and I thought it was originally the Plym Valley Railway. Yeah, Plym Valley Railway, somewhere I hope to visit on the channel at a future point. Not done so yet. That's in the city of Plymouth, not far from where I used to live, work should I say, and live. I used to live at a place called Maidstone and work at Marsh Mills there. But realised it was on the other side of the city of Plymouth. Really interesting to see that the viaduct was made of thousands of concrete blocks. Yeah, off the top of my head, I think it was 11,100, and they were actually made, they constructed a temporary factory to make the concrete blocks right on site there in Calstock. It really looked like stone from a distance. Lovely shape too. It certainly does. When you do see it, you do think, is that limestone rock? Because that is what it looks like, and it's weathered wonderfully. It still looks rather new though as well. So although it's aged a little bit, it doesn't look as old as 120 odd years since when it was built. Thanks very much for that, David. And I say part two, that will land soon. And finally, for the month of January, they had Severn Way 23 and my incident with the scarf. So yes, this is a section from Frampton-on-Severn to the Sharpness Port, or Port of Sharpness, should I say. Great comment from Kathy. Thanks, Kathy. She decided to write a limerick. There was a bloke called Paul. His blue scarf, it did fall. He walked to the canal Many facts he did tell. With scar found, he walked. Oh, thanks for that, Guy. And another comment from Grant Bain. I've done that walk a couple of times, so I enjoyed hearing the history and information. The Black Shed is a welcome stop-off point, as is the Tudor pub. I love the Purton Hulks and the old railway bridge. I also like the lockkeepers' houses too. Yes, I will be returning to those story about the lockkeepers' houses, because similarly to I've done stories about the secrets of the Stroudwater and Thames and Severn, there may be a mini-series at a later point coming up showing you more and telling more about the Gloucester Sharpness Canal as well. So that was it. 11 videos for the month of January, so managed to dodge all the worst of the weather, and there'll be lots coming up in February too. I'll just go through some of those with you now. Recently been down to the town of Bridgewater in Somerset. Now Bridgewater was also a very important port like the one at Sharpness in neighbouring Gloucestershire. So I wanted to go there to have a look at what remains of the port and the associated canal and the navigable River Parrett. Lots to see. I'm afraid unfortunately it is in quite a bit of a dereliction, but there are plans to restore it. So that tour of Bridgewater will be coming up, well, probably within the next week. I also went recently to Devon and had a look at the Colne Valley, to a place called Ufcoln, which is the most delightful village. I just spotted it looking at a map, and I was aware of the connections to the old railway line there as well. So that'll be arriving on the channel too. And also there'll be another Severn Way one, the section between Sharpness Docks and going down to Albury, where we'll leave the county of Gloucestershire and head into South Gloucestershire. There'll be another Lost Railway walks coming up, and also 2 canal ones in the sense of the Secrets of the Stroudwater and also another Secrets of the Thames and Severn Canal. I do hope to, maybe in February, probably perhaps March, return to the Somerset Coal Canal. And there's another canal I like to look at as well in the springtime, and that is the Dorset and Somerset Canal, which a lot of people haven't actually heard of, but there are some interesting remains of it. But we'll have a go down to Somerset and see what we can see of that one. So that's it for this month of January. Thank you very much if you've watched any of my videos, particularly if you've commented, liked, shared. You're a new subscriber to the channel, so welcome. I really, really do appreciate it. It enables me to keep the channel going. Until next time on West Country Wanderings, all the best for now, and I'll see you next month. Bye.